Hi, welcome to the small shed and welcome to a new venture. I'll see you in a minute. Now, this is an unusual diversion for me. To anyone who's coming to this through the Cyclekart route rather than the woodworking and that I've been doing for 3 or 4 years in here. I just thought I'd give a brief introduction and let you know what's going on, what goes on in here, what goes on in the small garage next door. This is the small shed. It's 9 foot by 8 inside, but it has been responsible for quite a lot of things of varying sizes, from very small up to a double-deck bus bunk bed, which has come out of here, but obviously a lot of the work was done outside in the garage and on the drive. I've got a garage next door which has got room in there for my 3-wheeler trike, the JZR. Again, it's very small. It's a normal garage that's had a toilet put in at the back. It's got a little walkway through to the back door, so it means that the workable, usable length I've got in that garage is probably only about 10 feet. It's 8 foot wide, so again, it's plenty wide enough for a car, but it's just not long enough. Now, normally when I do projects, which I've been doing for, as I say, 3.5 years in here, I know where I'm going, I know what I'm building, and I generally tend to do videos that are about 20 minutes long, 15, 20 minutes. And they're a bit more structured. They're beginning, middle, end, tell you what I'm going to do, show you me doing it, tell you what I've done at the end, sort of thing. And it's normally a straightforward project. So therefore I know generally what the destination is going to be. This is going to be totally different. This is a new adventure for me, if you like. And I don't quite know where it's going to lead. I'm building a cycle cart. I think one of the things I've got out of this is the ethos of the whole movement, that it doesn't really matter whether it's good or not, it's whether or not I have fun. And I think that's the name of the game, really. I'm not unused to building cars. I've got a 355 Ferrari replica on the drive. Well, it's currently away at the moment, having a lot of work done on it, but that's something which I played some part in building, although I didn't do all of that one. I've got the JZR trike in the garage, which is closer to a cycle car than a car actually, and I built that pretty much from the ground up. But this is a new adventure, if you like, on the basis that I am actually, hopefully, making most of it. I am a maker at heart, and my whole reason for doing this is that of making rather than motorsport or driving the thing at the end of it. Not that I won't enjoy it, but the main reason is because I like making things. I've been trying to think where some of the inspirations come from for this. They are deeply seated in all of this in my dad. He owned a garage in Northfield in Birmingham, and therefore I sort of learned at his knee pretty much from very early age. I've got photographs of myself at about 5 or 6, I think, under the bonnet of the A40 we had, 959 LOE. I can still remember the number to that day, to this day, even if I can't remember what I'm doing now or did 5 minutes ago. He then, in the 1960s, about 62 I think, bought an old Austin 7 to rebuild, and did a ground up rebuild on that. And again, I learnt there all the joys of grinding valves, making gaskets out of car floor mats and all sorts of things like that, that stuck with me pretty much all my life and has given me a love of cars, motorsport and making things, and it just seems that this Cyclekart thing happened to be a glorious gathering of all of those influences, if you like, particularly as, again, I mentioned the ethos that nothing really matters that much, so it's not going to be taken that seriously, which again is a side of myself. Having a loose gathering of like-minded individuals out to have fun seems to be the right route to go. So that's that. I've got a couple of heroes, and again they're heroes relevant to this, sort of. Colin Chapman has always been a guidance, if you like, in that his ethos of making it simply and then adding lightness is pretty much the answer to most things I do. I've got some behind me here is a model railway board, and again you can't really look any closer than that and see it's made out of 3mm plywood and 4mm plywood. It's simple, it's light. That's the way I work with most of my railway boards. The other guidance and influence, if you like, is Adrian Newey, who I consider to be the finest Formula One designer of, certainly of my age, if not all time. He's talking about his father, who had a great passion for engineering and liked nothing better than a challenge. How can I do this differently? How can I do it better? And he goes on to say that every year in Formula One we pore over the regulations for next year, and part of my job, perhaps even the part I relish most, involves working out what the regulations actually say as opposed to what their intent is, and whether this subtle difference allows any new avenues. I'm basically saying, how can I use these regulations to try something that hasn't been done before? Now that's sort of my mental approach in many ways to this. There are a set of very loose rules on this, and I'm not reading them to see what they don't say so that I can subvert them or get around them, because getting back again to this ethos thing, that is not the point of this. But it is a case of what is missing from the regulations that gives me that chance to do something different, something quirky maybe. The very first thing I noticed when I read through was that nowhere in the Cyclekart regulations that had been sketched out did it mention how many wheels the car might have. And my immediate thought then dropped to the Morgan type three-wheeler, and then having read through a bit further I found that a lot of people, or other people, have done that. I'd already got a real toy that was pretty much close to a Cyclekart anyway, so I rapidly moved away from that. But it's that sort of thought process. What can I do that's different, not for the sake of being different, but just because it's more interesting? I will probably learn something, maybe some other people might learn something, maybe I won't, maybe I'll learn that I'm totally wrong, but I'd rather try and use slightly different materials or slightly different approaches. I've already had lots of ideas and thoughts, and again when I go through I find that in many cases I'm not reinventing the wheel, I'm not becoming a genius that's thought of something, it's already been done. So I suspect there's not going to be anything that's hugely innovative about anything I do, but I'm just going to enjoy finding out. I've already learned a huge amount about suspension geometry and design that I had passed me by over the years. So again, part of my whole being is that I like to learn stuff, and I think as long as you keep doing that, you've got a chance of having a sort of fulfilled life, you know, rather than just sitting around watching television all day. So that's the couple of influences, if you like, other than Dad. It's the motor car builders, if you like, and how their thought processes work that have very much led me on that way. And as I say, I've thought once or twice so far in the last fortnight, month or so, I've been thinking about this, of several wonderful innovations that I'm going to do that nobody's done before, and then I find them somewhere else, somewhere in America. They've been doing this for 20-30 years or more. So I suspect that whatever I'm doing isn't going to be that far away from what anybody else has done. But we're going to make a start, as I say, with the body tub. First thing to do with that, to get a scale drawing, scale it properly, get an idea of the size of this thing, draw it up onto some sheets of plywood, and get on with that. So now, my usual videos, as I mentioned, are 20 minutes, 15 minutes long. I like to keep them straightforward, and if I'm doing a long build, I'll chop it into sections, try and keep a theme on each one, try and have a start, beginning and end again, and do one complete section at a time. Those go out at a weekend on a regular basis. These are going to be totally different, these videos. They're going to be as and when. They're going to be rough in terms of, I'm not going to spend a great deal of time editing on them, but hopefully they'll cover all of the build in some way or another, and that will also be warts and all. Again, with things that I build, I don't tend to show something if it's gone wrong, other than a specific example. But if I start trying to repair something and I can't do it, I don't put out a video saying I've started to repair this, look, and then I haven't done it, because it sort of doesn't seem to have a point. In this instance, I think it does, because again, it's important perhaps for others to learn just the way I learn, if you like, and I've learnt from others who've left comments in threads on forums and all sorts, that you go down a route and you find it's the wrong one, and it may save somebody some time one day. There will be a tendency for people to maybe want to write in while I'm doing these videos on the comments and say, you don't want to do it that way, you need to be doing this. Much as I appreciate comments and enjoy comments, they will probably be pointless in this instance, because again, one of the things I want to do is to get this thing quite far down the build line before I start putting videos out, because I don't want to be in a position where I start something and then for whatever reason find I either don't want to carry on with it or I don't carry on with it, because that is the one fail that I don't want to be able to show. I don't want to be the bloke that, like a lot of the forum threads that you see, that starts with a huge amount of enthusiasm and I'm going to do this, that and the other, and then it just goes dead and 2 years later there's been no progress. So I leave it to people to watch or not as they wish. This is not a commercial channel. I get nothing out of it. The whole point of doing any of my videos is not for your entertainment, it's for me to have a discipline to actually get something finished. And I have found over the last 3.5 years that I've got far more projects finished than I had in 40, 50, 60 years prior to that. I'm even just finishing off in the garage. That was an extension that I built on the house in late 1980s, beginning of the 1990s. And to this day, the ceiling hadn't been plastered in the garage. So even now, in this last lockdown, has been a brilliant sort of spur to me to get things done. And I think there's also an element of old age and creeping on, that you want to get all these things out of the way so that somebody else doesn't have to sort it out afterwards. The Ferrari had been on the drive Ferrari replica I should say, had been on the drive for 16 years without turning a wheel, and I, because of life, got in the way and got plenty of excuses not to get it done. It didn't get done. The three-wheeler in the garage needs an engine rebuild because the cam chain's gone. That again has been sitting in there for 10-15 years. So it might seem the wrong time to be starting a new build on something else, but all these things are now getting done, and because I've got the videos going along, there is, if you like, a pressure on me, and admittedly it's my own pressure, but it's a pressure I've deliberately got now that I'm making on myself. Put the videos out and then you're more likely to have to do stuff, and we'll do it and get it done. And so hopefully this won't be a failed project. I'm guessing, and I don't know, I'm guessing it's going to take about a year to get this thing to a point where I can at least take a chassis, if nothing else, out on the track and give it a blast. And what I don't want to do is start that process with the videos a year before I do that. I want to be able to start these videos maybe 2 or 3 months before it's actually ready to roll on the track. By that time I'll know that we're going to get somewhere with this and it is actually going to happen. Right, so that's introduced, if you like, me to any of the new Cyclekart visitors. The shed people already, I think, know me, but at least you now get some idea of what makes me tick, and we've got a rough idea of where we're going with this whole build. Hope it was of interest. Look forward to seeing you next time. We'll be doing something on the cart in a week or two's time, and I hope to see you then. Bye!